So Park Ranger Andrew Gonzalez here at Fort Casey State Park. I've been working here for about 3 years.
So the first question I have is, how long have you worked here?
So I've worked here at Fort Casey State Park for 3 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what was your experience like working here?
So my experience here is awesome. We help customers out, customer service, campers, cleaning trails, especially on the off season when we get a lot of windstorms. So we spend a lot of time out on the trails.
Oh, okay.
They have parkades that we supervise, so just getting out with the parkades and being a good leader and showing people, you know, the area in general.
Do you have any stories that you want to share?
Yeah, I have a pretty cool story from last year. It was Veterans Day weekend. We got a call to Fort Eby. There was 2 eagles that were down on the trail, and they were stuck under some branches pretty far off the trail into the woods. So my partner and I, we went out there, we found the eagles, and they just had 1 or 2 little branches stuck on them. But as soon as we lifted those branches, because they were upside down, as soon as we lifted the branches, they hopped up, they looked around, and they hopped off like a couple of chickens. But then they flew off, so we saved the eagles.
That's cool.
Which is awesome.
Okay.
He is right now under the YMCA, but here at Fort Casey, this area was known as the Coastal Defense System. So this park in general is comprised of 3 different parks. So we have Fort Casey, we have Fort Worden across the water, and we also have Fort Flagler across the water. So those 3 forts, which are all state parks right now, were all part of the Triangle of Fire and the Coastal Defense System. So any ships that would come into the area, this would be the first place to see those ships coming in. So this was a major part of, you know, the World War I and II Coastal Defense System.
That's cool. What's your favorite part about Camp Casey?
Ooh, my favorite part, probably the sunsets over the Olympic National Park. It is awesome here, especially when you get the lighthouse in the background. It's probably my favorite part. They say we get paid in sunsets, so it's true. Every time we close the park, we go look at the sunset, and it's an awesome part of the job.
And then the last question we have is, what is Camp Casey like on a day basis?
So day to day, restroom cleaning. That's a big part of our job, you know, which goes into customer service and making sure the entry to the parks look great. Helping anybody out safety wise. So if somebody's lost on the trail, we go out and try to find them. Any questions that people have as we're walking around the fort, we do our best to answer those questions. Just customer service in general.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Sharp. I'm Elisa's grandpa, and this is Fort Casey, Camp Casey, and I came here the first time when I was 10 years old, a long time ago. We're figuring that's about 1960.
So the first question is, what do you know about Camp Casey, or Fort Casey?
Well, Camp Casey and Fort Casey. Okay, so the fort is here in this area. As you can see, the big cannon up there, and this was built for World War I and II. You heard that from the park ranger.
Yeah.
So Fort Casey was designed to defend Puget Sound area against the enemy, any enemy, so we try to come in here. And then Camp Casey, to be distinctive from Fort Casey, was where the officers' housing were, and the Navy and soldiers had barracks. And so that's over that little hill. There's a lighthouse here, and over the little hill is Camp Casey, and that's a beautiful big place too. So we'll go look there.
Okay. Yeah. When was the first time that you visited Fort Casey?
Well, let's see, the first time I visited Fort Casey was probably when I was about 10 years old. And my brother worked here at Camp Casey. And so at 10, I actually learned to drive his car on the beach down here. So we're on Whidbey Island, and it was the beach, but about 10 years old. Yeah, that's when I first came.
Do you have any stories you'd like to tell us about Camp Casey?
Ooh, wow. Well, there's lots of stories. I'll try to figure out how I should tell this story. But my brother was responsible for sort of guarding the camp, and they had lots of people that stayed there. And so one night there were some Navy guys kind of driving around from the Oak Harbor base, and they kept driving and cruising around. So my brother thought we should make sure that we watch them very carefully. So they drove around, and so my brother filled his shotgun with rock salt, which is designed so it doesn't hurt you. I mean, it burns if you got shot with it, but it wouldn't kill you or injure you per se. But he filled his shotgun with rock salt, and then he says, "We're going to go sit in the brush," and I can show you that here. We can go film that if you want, where it was exactly. So we sat in the brush, 3 of us, and then we saw these sailors drive up. They didn't see us in the brush. They got out of their car, and as they got out of the car, my brother said, "Put your hands up," and stood up with his shotgun. So that's my story.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, unless you show me how.